everyone, welcome to Sandbox Chats. My name is Juliet Gateri from Alternate Doors Consulting, the HR expert at Sandbox. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
So, hi, my name is Kioi of the Kioi and Company Advocates. I'm the legal expert at Sandbox.
Hi, I'm Rosslyn Mutahi. I'm the process and quality expert at Sandbox, and I'm the founder of Top Tier Limited. Okay, so we can just jump right into this conversation.
Yeah.
I know right now there's a lot of things going on about COVID-19 and what will happen for employers and employees. So I'm certain one thing that's on people's mind is that as an employer, am I allowed to cut salaries for my employees? And as an employee, should I accept a pay cut? What do you think, Angela?
Okay, I mean, in terms of legally, anything that you do with your employees must be done with their consent, especially where it means that you're reducing, let's say, their pays or their work. Yeah. So in this case, I'd say if you are looking to reduce salaries, I think all your employees can understand what's going on. They can see the nature of the economy as it is right now, the slowdown, and what you need is to get your employees to agree to the pay reduction. If they don't agree and you reduce the salaries regardless, unilaterally, without discussing with them, what happens is that can be termed as constructive dismissal. So then you'd be looking at unfair dismissal or unfair termination. For employees, I think when I look at just speaking away from the law, whether or not you should take a pay cut, I think that is a very subjective. There's nothing in the law that says you absolutely must take a pay cut, but I think we're all in this together as human beings, so maybe it's that part of understanding where your employer is coming from, and as an employee, and whether you would agree to take that pay cut. But there's nothing in the law that says you have to take a pay cut. It's completely upon you at your discretion.
Okay. And what about redundancy? So let's say one of our biggest contract has been terminated because there's no business. So can I declare some of my employees redundant, especially if they don't accept a pay cut?
Yes, you can declare them redundant, but I'd say that you need to look at Section 40 of the Employment Act and being compliant. Yeah, so that provides all of the redundancy. What you need to do, first of all, is that you must give notice, at least 1 month's notice before you declare your employees redundant. So the first thing is either you give notice to the trade unions, if your employees are unionizable or are part of a union, or you give a notice to the employee and to the labor office. So you can't do this, just wake up and say you're declared redundant. That is not possible. Yeah. You must give in the notice. Once you've done the notice, then you pay either 1 month, you either give your employee 1 month's notice, or you pay them a salary in lieu of notice. And after that, you do 15 days. You're supposed to pay them 15 days service pay for every year worked. And finally, you need to look at the provisions of last in, first out.
Okay.
Yeah. So what the court will look at in deciding whether or not is that you followed the procedure. So there's nothing that's going to stop you from declaring your employees redundant, but you have to have followed your procedure. So if you didn't follow the procedure, then it looks like then that would be termed as unfair dismissal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing you need to think about as an employer is when do you pay? So I know a lot of people have asked me, like, if I declare my employees redundant today, can I pay them in the future?
Yeah.
We understand this is the economy is as it is. So what I'd say is, once again, you need to get consent from your employees. So if you want to do a structured payment for them, once you declare them redundant, they must agree to take that payment. Otherwise, that money is payable as and when you declare them redundant. I think also employers need to remember that anything you pay, remember that this is taxable income, and you have to tax your employees and you have to remit that tax to KRA. So even if you're going to pay in the future, your tax obligation is actually current.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when it's not going to be a future tax obligation, it will be a current tax obligation. So they have to think about and look for an expert who can guide them through this process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So a lot to think about.
Yeah. Is there something about just following up on the redundancy, because I'm thinking that might be a viable option for a lot of organizations. Is there anything in the law that says if I declare your position redundant, then I cannot fill that same position in a certain period of time, or is it, how does it work?
Okay, so I think a lot of times you look at the reasons why you've declared somebody redundant.
Okay.
Yeah? So let's say today is that I'm really, as a business, not able to pay the salaries. That doesn't mean that in the future that cannot change.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it will be impossible for you to have a defense if I declare you redundant today, and in a month I've hired someone to take your position. Then that will be looked as
Not even
termination.
hiring. I'm looking at it from a HR perspective.
Yeah.
Let's say I enlarge somebody else's role. So you are managing a certain project, but that project has been reduced by a certain percentage. So I feel somebody else in the organization is more efficient and effective, and we can combine these two roles.
No, I think there's no restriction on that. Like if it's people inside managing the roles, I think there's no restriction on that.
Okay.
However, so as I said, it's the intentions, which is looked at how you're working. And it's always the hope that your business is going to grow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just because I declare people redundant today doesn't mean that in a year's time I may not be ready to hire somebody else. And then even the roles which are being left, maybe part of the roles which are being left, undone, that you can also now expand for the people who are currently in the office to do those roles.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Okay. And from you, Rosslyn, from a process and system perspective, what do you feel companies should do, especially in non-essential services?
Okay.
So, for example, now offices are closed. Maybe we don't need a receptionist.
That's true.
So, how do we make ourselves more efficient as a business or as a small, medium business?
As a small business, okay.
Yeah.
So I think our reality is a lot of businesses today already are in an office space that perhaps just sits exactly the number of people that they need for the jobs, or it's just, there's not a lot of leeway already.
Yeah.
So I think the first steps, like you rightly say, look at who's non-essential staff. So if you're not, for example, if you're not cleaning the office because you're not there, then you think around, okay, do we have an office cleaner? Is it a company or is it an individual?
Yeah.
Then you need to speak to that company or individual and tell them, okay, look, at this point we're not using the office as we intended because we are quarantined at home. So we need to have a discussion around suspending or terminating the service. And I would initially say, as we discussed, consider suspending, because the reality is that this situation will pass. It may take some time to pass, but it will pass. So cleaners, receptionists, just services that are needed at the office specifically. So another thing you can think about is like your Wi-Fi. We're not using that. We're now using it at the office. So do we need? We're using it at home. We do not need to pay it at the office. So just thinking things around that. We must not renew that service because we're not using it. Then use those resources where they're actually right now needed. Something else that I would think of is have a discussion. We don't know how long this is going to go. Have a discussion with your landlord around your rent. Is it something that they could consider suspending or reduce, or having a reduction in the amount you pay per square footage? Just what is the arrangement? Just have a discussion around those as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking about how many, there's a directive for businesses to now do as much as possible at home. So for employers, how do we now, supervise our employees, or what processes do we need to put in place to ensure that our business can continue being done, even if it's being done at home? How do we do that? Yeah.
Fantastic. So one of the things I've seen work very effectively is, first off, you must have very clear deliverables in this period especially. This is something that businesses need all the time, but you have to have a lot of clarity around what is this job expected to deliver. Okay? So bottom line is, if I'm hired for a certain role, if I'm a salesperson, do I have sales targets? And so those have to be clear. In this period, maybe your salespeople are not hitting the streets, so that there could be arguments around, can I really meet my target, But then all I'm saying is, whatever role an individual is doing, then it needs to be clear, first of all, what the targets are. Then once you're clear about that, then you're saying, okay, fine, in this period of time, what can we reasonably do? So if the target was this high, then we're saying, okay, we can reasonably do this high minus 25%, let's say, or minus 75%. Maybe it's a complete shutdown. So be clear on what the deliverables are, and then have a way then of monitoring deliverables. Something I've seen work very effectively is a daily huddle. So if you're sitting in the office today, you could meet up at a desk or you have a short meeting and talking about this is what we expect to do today, and this is how we're going to do it, and then at the end of the day, meet up again and say, did we actually achieve what we intended to do? So have institute huddles where you're coming together online as your team, virtually as your team, and saying, okay, look, this is what we want to deliver today, or this is what we want to deliver this week. And then have check-ins of whether you're actually able to deliver that. So then that way you're, in a sense, keeping tabs on each other, keeping tabs on your team, and keeping each other accountable. And I think also it's very important that the human interactions go on, right? Because then if you leave people, I know I've talked to a lot of people who really like the fact that they come to work and work with a group of people, right? So that's now removed as well. So you must consider that some productivity, is achieved from the fact that people are working together. So as a business, try to continue that so that people have the sense of we're still a team and we're still working together for places where that is possible. Yes, it's not a holiday. No, it's not.
Work as usual.
Where work as usual is actually possible.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's some of the things I'm thinking.
All right.
Yeah.
And so, like now, Juliet, just thinking about what she's talking about, people working from home. I think a lot of questions have been asked around. Is it possible? What is shall you as an employer give your employees computers, buy them modems, to enable them to work at home? So, how does an employer manage this whole scenario of working from home? What resources can they give, and how will they be able to do that?
Okay. I know sometimes as a small business, it's very tough to provide these resources. I think even for us in our office, it was difficult for us to find affordable bundles for our team to use. But as an employer, how you treat your employees now and even before will determine, when you come back, it will determine a lot in how they treat you back as an employer. So I would urge all employers to provide resources. So if it's internet, make sure everyone has enough internet. If they need transport to go and meet a client, don't let them go with a matatu, provide sufficient transport. So just make sure they are safe and they're able to deliver. Because if they're not able to deliver, they're not able to meet, like what she mentioned, key deliverables. So they're not able to meet the deliverables, and they'll have excuses. Oh, you didn't give me transport, or you didn't give me internet, you didn't give me airtime to call clients. So there'll be a lot of back and forth, and what you lose a lot of time arguing over this issue on resources, and you would have easily provided that as an employer. So it's essential for employers to provide resources, adequate resources at this time.
And I think that, just adding on to that, I think a lot of people also are aware sometimes that there's just a limit to how much resources an employer can provide. So I know that people, depending on who, I've seen other small businesses ask or at interviews whether you actually have a computer to work with, and if that's something that I don't know, businesses can consider as well. I don't know whether that presents any issues around the secrets of the organization, and maybe that's something you can tell from a legal perspective.
Sorry, just repeat again.
Like the whole thing of if I use my own resources, for example, I use my own laptop to process company data, what does that have any legal implications on the employee or on the employer?
On the employer.
And I've not signed any NDA. I'm working.
I'm just working. We just need to get the job done.
Okay, I mean, it depends on, it raises quite a number of issues. I think one of the first ones I'd look at is, let's say, intellectual property. If your employee is directly responsible for creating intellectual property or coming up with property which belongs to a company, that's usually covered under the fact that you're employed in a company. Anything that you create under the guise of employment belongs to your employer. When it comes to confidential information or sensitive information, most offices which have confidential information will always make sure that their employees sign NDAs.
Okay.
Yeah, but obviously you cannot immediately that the information is outside of your office. You may not be able to control how it's been shared. So what you also need to do as the employer is consider, because you see the employee releasing confidential information, there are two types, either one that is pertaining to your client, so that means are you in breach as an employer of a non-disclosure agreement that you had with your client, but which covers your employee, whether or not they knew about it,
true, yeah.
Or a sensitive information that now pertains to your business. So you as the employer, how are you going to make sure that your employees understand? So a lot of times I think I look at even in this period of time, can you provide training? It's never too late to train people on how they should handle their information. Okay. It's never too late to sign that NDA if that is what you absolutely must need to do to protect your information. So it's not something that just because it wasn't done previously, you can't do it now. Okay. Yeah. So it's never too late. Train your employees to understand how to handle confidential information because it's important. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That brings us to the aspect of how then, as an employer, do you treat employees in this period? What are how there's training you could do, but what else can you do to, in a sense, because I think everybody is a little nervous about how this will play out. What are some of the things you can do to make sure make your employees comfortable that they are, in a sense, their jobs are not at risk or they're not going to be kicked out?
Yeah, it's actually the responsibility of the employer. I know all of us are in a panic mode. We are uncertain about the future. But you, as the employer, you should take that leadership and initiative to make sure your employees are comfortable and secure. So first of all, I like the fact that you mentioned the daily huddles. So it's very important for you to have daily meetings with the employees. So at least you know where you stand as a business. And also you need to be very transparent with them. So don't hide anything because it's not business as usual. Things have already changed. So if you've lost a client, be clear with your employees that we've lost this client and we need to rethink strategies on how to gain others. If you've increased your cost, you need to be very transparent and tell them these costs have increased. Like what Angie has said, if you are stuck in a tough place and if you are transparent to your employees and tell them maybe we need to reduce salaries for the next 3 months, or maybe we need to cut by 30% for 9 months until we recover. Because some businesses are very dependent on China and some of the products are not coming. So it may take time before we recover. So how you communicate with your employees, remember your employees are also your customers and stakeholders. So what you tell them, don't focus on your clients only, also focus on your internal customers who are your employees. So just make sure that consistency is there. And also if you're working from home, you can be having meetings like let's say once a week in the office, so at least to have that team bonding and you can just creating a motivational type of environment, at least the employees are more secure about the business. Yeah.
So I think another thing that I would like to ask about is how do we handle leave? For example, sick leave, if someone gets sick, and maybe they need to be out more days than the sick leave provides, and annual leave. How would we now start handling those issues in terms of leave as employers?
So for leave, I think there's a restriction on the law, but in some special instances, let's say for example, I traveled to another country for work and I'm required to quarantine for 14 days. So I would request the employers to understand and just let this person quarantine. They can work during the quarantine because when you're quarantined doesn't mean you're sick. You're just away from people. So they can continue working while they're there. Let's say for example somebody is sick more than the 14 required days, you can extend. So depending on how your policy works, you can extend for a certain duration of time until now the person is well. In terms of annual leave, I know what we've done with some clients. If I let's say had planned to take leave in August as an employee, we've moved the leave forward. So instead of you going on leave in August, you go now for the 21 days, and then now so that when we are recovering, we don't have any breakdown in terms of the productivity in work. So how you negotiate with your employees is very important.
you really need to be cautious and think about, does this contract, is it written? Does it have all the provisions I need to have? Everyone is talking about, does it have a force majeure clause? Does it have a force majeure clause? What does that mean?
Yeah.
So to understand and to have, to be more cautious about getting legal advice and having, written contracts which are very specific.
What does that clause mean? To, especially not to employer-employee, but to business to business. What does business?
Yeah. Okay, so basically with force majeure, we look at, it's something beyond your control that is making you unable to fulfill your obligations under a contract.
Okay.
So not everything can be told force majeure because of COVID. That does not apply in every single case. Yeah. So it has to be very, very specific that whatever is happening. So if you look at the current situation, they use that as an example. So we have the coronavirus. Governments are looking to shut down, to slow, so that they can slow the infection rate and flatten the curve.
Yeah.
Well and good. So the question would be, how does this affect your obligations under a contract? Does it make it either very expensive for you to carry out that contract, or does it make it like you absolutely cannot carry out the contract? And so one of the things I can tell businesses is they need to sit down and review. Do you have a force majeure clause? If you don't, they still, you can still use the doctrine of frustration, which is just force majeure, but it's not written down. So is that contract frustrated? Are you not able to fulfill your obligations under the contract, meaning that now the contract is frustrated? And then maybe sitting down with the businesses which you have these contracts with, or your clients, and seeing if you can now either renegotiate. Does this mean that the contract is now completely cancelled, or does it mean that it can be suspended to be picked up when things go back? Which is one of the two options. So it's either that it's cancelled completely or it's suspended for a period of time. So I think, so for me what I'd say is, for all businesses, everyone is going through this right now. People will be told, I cannot pay you for a bill which was in January. I cannot pay you because of COVID. You understand? So fine, that is the reason why they're using it, but is that really a legitimate reason? Is that really frustration? Is that really force majeure? And how can you as a business now mitigate against that risk? So
can I claim that clause with my landlord?
Okay. I would actually say, so I know you can't claim it with your employees. And with your landlord, I would say, in very specific, especially for commercial properties.
Okay.
Yeah, to a certain extent, it's possible, especially if you have to shut down your business.
Got that.
And you're not doing anything there, then you cannot proceed to pay on the clause. But it really depends. I'm really reluctant because it really depends on the terms of your contract. And you need to have someone sit down, go through each and every specific part of your contract. There is some contracts with your landlords have a force majeure clause. So you need to sit down and look at it. As any business should sit down and really seriously think about crisis management for their business. I think I also was talking to a couple of people, and we discussed about key man risk. Is there that one person in your business who cannot be done? What are you doing to make sure that your key man is, in good health, that they are going to continue working, that how is the shutdown affecting
Keep them at home and make sure they stay at home.
And make sure they stay at home.
But I think also with the key man risk, you need to have a proper succession plan.
Exactly.
So don't have only one person. So make sure that person has 2 assistants who are able to do the kind of work that he's going to do. Because maybe after this crisis, he's going to be taken, or maybe he'll prefer that gig economy type of
that's
thing,
true.
And he'll leave you.
Exactly.
So you need to have people that are backing him up, and then they can take over if he's gone.
I like that idea for having a succession plan.
Yes, having a proper succession plan. Because what I foresee in future is the future has there's no opportunity for lazy employees. So if you are hiding behind the desk and the computer, then if you're not able to meet your deliverables, then the future has no use for you. So it's now you need to upgrade, and now you need to start meeting your deliverables as an employee.
I think that's an opportunity actually. It's just, even as an individual, just thinking through, and businesses, what is it that we can do? What skills within the business, and do I personally have that I can use in this period too and in the future? Because it's really about the future, because I certainly with every crisis it will pass. I'm not certain about how long it will take, but it'll pass, and certainly you want to be ready for that new, because it's not going to be as usual. This is going to be I think the phrase is a new normal. So we just got to find that new level and be ready for that new level.
Yes.
So upgrade on skills, I think. I'm my takeout from this conversation is upgrade on skills and look through your whole directory in a sense of skills and competencies as an individual and as a business to see how to adjust for the future. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And one last question before we wrap up. What about casual workers? So what happens if I have casual workers and you're talking about upgrading skills? So for casual workers, it's just task-oriented activities. So how do I upgrade and how do I handle contracts with casual workers?
Okay, so I think one of the things that I find really difficult, like when I'm advising people with respect to casual workers, is you say someone is a casual worker, but they've been working for you for 6 years. Are they a casual worker? So that's where we start.
Okay.
Are they a casual worker? Yeah, because the law is very specific that there's a period of time which they work for you that they stop being a casual worker and become a term contract employee. So it's, despite you calling them a casual worker, they might not be. So you need to really sit down and assess, is this person really a casual worker? And I know the places where maybe you can really see like casual employees, you'll be looking at maybe in the farming industry where people come and go as and when you need them. But if you have factories and someone is showing up every day at 8 o'clock and living for 6 years, it doesn't matter whether you call them a casual worker.
If they're paid on a daily basis, that's not a casual worker.
It's not a casual worker. So let us be very clear about how we term what we are terming, and you need to sit down and really examine so that you know what rights relate to them. But just looking at it as specifically for casual workers, these are day-to-day workers. So if they come as and when you need them. So if someone is really a casual worker, then I'd be telling you, you reserve the right to say, today I need 20 people, tomorrow I need 10. So if you really have truly casual workers, but where they're not, you need to also be careful that you're not calling someone a casual worker and they're not a casual worker, because at the point where you terminate them without proper notice, without all the proper procedures, then it becomes an issue for you in the future. It attracts legal risk.
That's good. So I guess I think we've discussed more than enough with the uncertainty with the COVID-19. So welcome to Sandbox. If you need further clarification or any questions, reach directly to us through the Sandbox, and you can discuss with Angie on anything legal, you can discuss with me on anything HR related, and you can discuss with Rosslyn on anything process and system related. Thank you. Karibu Sandbox.
Karibu Sandbox.